I want to introduce you to a clamp, and I just bought a new set of clamps because sometimes you buy a clamp 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 9 years ago, and the quality can go down and you don't realize it's gone down. So I went around and looked at several different manufacturers and I came up with this one, and I really like this. But what I want to do is show you what happens after you retrofit these clamps, and I'm encouraging you to retrofit your clamps for a variety of reasons, not the least of which it increases the torque on the clamp, and that's what you want. So listen to this. That's before we retrofit. Listen to this. A completely different sound. Watch this now. Now watch this, or listen to this. Completely different. Watch this. This is where I'm going to put some torque on the clamp, and you do get torque when you clamp up. So I can twist this a good 1/2 inch, but once I put a wooden insert in, and that's what's going to make a huge difference to the clamp, this I can barely move to make it twisted, and it really makes a huge difference when you're clamping up your project. So I've got different clamps, and I have some where I've taken the long ones and just cut them down because I find them very useful for short clamps as well. So these are fairly inexpensive compared to some, and I really like them. So I'm going to retrofit one clamp for you, this one, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So I've cut my piece of wood. I've got a piece of wood here that actually feels, when you first measure it, it feels like it's about the right size. But if it goes in like this, it's useless. That's not going to work. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for a clamp, a piece of wood that fits inside near the top of the U, like that. And then I'm going to press it in, and I want this to go in, and I feel pretty good about this. But you see those little notches that are indented in there? This is going to hit those on the underside, and I want it to do that because that's going to give it some bite. So what I'm going to do is insert this, but the first thing, before I get that far, I want to take a rasp or a plane and take the arris off, take the corner off quite aggressively, because the inside corner of the clamp has a slightly rounded internal corner because it's extruded aluminium. And in other words, in actual fact, this is slightly different. This is more folded in that internal corner. So it leaves a very small bend on the metal. I'm going to cut this to length now, and I want to get the length, which is where a useful piece of loose wood will be helpful, because once this is in, you'd be sewing right near this end, and that's not what we want. So I didn't do the whole length, remember, that's where I was gripping. So I'm going to make a mark and go slightly under. Now if you wanted to extract this, which I have a couple of clamps where I've left this protruding about 2 inches past here, so I can remove it if I want to make a long clamp from 2 of these clamps. Then I'll put a long piece of wood between 2 clamps, and that works great to give you an additional clamp for long purposes like dining tables and beds and things like that. Go ahead, knock the corners off for the insert, really, so it's not catching as it goes down the tube. Small things make a big difference. Okay. I'm looking at this end, making sure it is square, and I'm going to start pounding this in to the groove. So I start like this. Just get my start. Once it's gone in 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch or so, it's already biting on that first tooth. So I've got a very nice snug fit here. And I'm just using pine. Why didn't I use oak or ash or a hardwood? Well, I've tried everything, and I really felt like pine or spruce, just taken from a wooden stud or something like that, works perfectly. And I like the way it sounds and feels and everything. That's how I do mine. I put this in the vise, give it a cinch along the length, and look what we got. Isn't that nice? So that's very nice now. So that's mine. Now what we're going to do, I want to add a couple of pads. I like these wooden pads. Now in the past I used double-sided tape and it worked fine for the longest time. But not all double-sided tape are created equal. So I've gone more to a laminate adhesive, you know, what do we call it? Impact adhesive it's called. I'm just taking off the corners a little bit, removing any element of the broken fibers. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put contact cement onto this. I'm just using a glue called Yoo-Hoo. I've used it ever since I was a small boy and it works great for this. Put a large glob of glue in the middle of one, and then press the two surfaces together just to distribute the glue. Then take each one, put it onto the shoe, and just pull up and separate. Press it hard onto that surface. Same on this one. Press it hard on and pull up. Whoops, not that hard. Oh no, it went the wrong way up. No, that's great. So now we just leave it for about half a minute. Is there anything I can advise you on this while we're waiting? What we want is for these two surfaces to become just barely tacky. So we're going to leave it just for that second. There is something you might consider doing, and that is you could put a screw here just through one of these. This will never come out on its own. It's not going to do that. But it can stop these two sides from spreading. So one screw here, another screw this side, just in case this starts to spread, because this end is already fixed, and this end, because it's a box construction, that probably will lead to these not bending. But that's just in case. It's a bit of an overkill. So what we do now is we slide this on here. I'm pressing it right down onto the bar because there's enough flex in the shoe for it not to be a problem. Slide up, align the shoes, and cinch tight. That's that bit done. Now I would leave that for probably half an hour normally. But what I'm going to do is ignore my own protocol on that, because there's one more thing that or one or two more small things I want to do. We're going to take this shoe off this end. What a difference this has made already to this clamp. I can feel it feels really solid. So when you're looking for the aluminium clamps like this one, remember to check out the thickness of the aluminium on the box section, because that can make a huge difference to the quality of the clamp. What I'm going to do is put this into the vise like this, and I just want to take a three-cornered file. I'm just using a saw file and just taking the file on the inside corner, because you'll find that this can bite onto the aluminium on the back and dig into the aluminium. So I'm just taking this hard corner off the back edge. That's all I'm doing. And then a little bit of abrasive paper on that surface. slide it back into place. And make sure you don't tighten this all the way down. If you tighten this all the way down, you'll find the screw won't turn. So I turn it till it cinches tight, then back it off a half turn, and that works for me. That's perfect. One last thing to do, I think, is a drop of oil right in here, and a drop of oil right in here. These are just wear spots. And that's it. That is how I would retrofit my clamps. What a nice piece of equipment that is. Great.